Hello everyone, welcome to Crimson Vow Day 4 of the spoilers review. Hopefully we see some cool new vampires today, as we haven't seen any since day 1. Let's quickly jump into it. Our first card here is Cemetery Protector. It's a 4-mana 3/4 human soldier with a flash. Okay. When Cemetery Protector enters the battlefield, exile a card from a graveyard. Whenever you play a land or cast a spell, if it shares a card type with the exiled card, create a 1/1 white human creature token. Okay. So at first, I thought this was like, when I first read the first line of text, I thought this was going to be as like a graveyard hate. And it's looking to be more like a value card than anything. Obviously, you can still do that, but I think most of the times this is going to just exile either a land to kind of like use it as like a landfall trigger to create a token. Or I guess you can use it if you're a creature deck and you have a lot of creatures in your hand. Oh, actually, in a creature deck, since this is a 4 mana is, if you kept your hand, you probably have a curve like 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is probably the last card you play, right? In that case, does this card belong in a creature deck? The thing is, by the time you play a 4 mana creature, you probably ran out of card. Since you're playing a creature deck, it's going to get 1 or 2 tokens out. Is that good enough though, right? What if a control deck played this as like a 4 mana 3/4 flash? It's also like it's an instant speed blocker, and 3/4 is no joke. And you could call like you could call instant speed or even a sorcery depending on the kind of deck you're playing. And let's say you're playing a counter spell centric deck and you play this as a blocker. Let's say you're playing Azorius control, play this as a blocker, you block, you eat something, and then on your following turn, you keep up instant speed spells to counter a bunch of stuff, and then it'll keep generating 1/1 creature token that can block. I actually think this fits more in a counter spell heavy deck, like an Azorius control, than a creature deck. I'm not even sure if a White Weenies kind of deck wants this kind of card. This is actually a very cool card. It reminds me of Nightpack Ambusher. But yeah, this card is really cool. I really like this card. It definitely has the potential of being played in standard for sure. Next card, Engulfing Tide. 4 mana, the blue sorcery. Each player chooses a non-land permanent they control. Return each other non-land permanent to its owner's hand, then draw a card for each opponent with more cards in hand than you. Obviously, you want to play this in like a tempo slash... I don't think like an Azorius control will play this. I think this is purely for a mono blue deck. Just because if you have access to red, why wouldn't you board wipe, right? Why wouldn't you board wipe and instead play this? Unless you really want to keep a creature of your own. But even then, it lets your opponent select the card that they want to keep. So the card that you want to keep has to be like game winning, right? I don't know about standard, but I can definitely see 2 or 3 copies of in perhaps like a artifact storm deck, like a mono blue artifact storm deck. Definitely has some historic potential if there were more playable 0-cost artifacts. But I mean, it's not gonna be like a tier 1 or anything, or even tier 2, but all I'm saying is that it is definitely a playable card. The effect is pretty strong for a 4 mana. I've seen these kind of board wide down spells before a few times, but they were all like 6 mana, like something like Blood Up Tears. For a 4 mana, it definitely has potential because it's just the fact that you get to keep a permanent. So as long as you don't care about what they keep and you only care about the card that you want to keep, and that's enough to win the game, that's where you want to play this, right? For example, like if you have Psy and you bounce all your artifacts that are like 0 cost, and then you get a bunch of Thopters out, that could be something that you can do. It's definitely good. This card is definitely good. I don't know if it'll see standard play, but even in historic, I'm not sure if there is a deck that would be able to utilize this, but it's a good card. If there were to be a deck like that, where by keeping that one card and being able to bounce everything will win you the game. Next card, Frenetic Devil. 5 mana 3/3. Haste whenever you cast non-creature spell. Frenetic Devils gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. It's a draft card. Let's move on to the next card. Kessig Wolfrider. 1 mana 1/2. Menace with forgot the creature type. Human Knight with a menace. It's a 1-drop. You can pay 3 and tap itself to exile 3 cards from your graveyard. Create a 3/2 red wolf creature token. My initial impression says that this card is bad. Why do they keep printing bad 1-drops? Don't they want aggro to be a little bit better, especially in the color red? If this was a 2/1, we would be talking, right? We would be celebrating here. But as a 1/2, menace is fine, but it's a 1/2. And on top of that, you have to pay 3. Like, okay, paying 3 is fine, but the fact that it has to tap itself is not fine. Also, it says exile 3 cards from your graveyard. That would mean that by turn 3, it would require you to have... You wouldn't be able to do that in standard unless you play blue and you play consider. I don't know, it's just even the effect is like, sure, like you can create 3/2 token or 3 mana. Like, to me, this is like a draft card, right? They printed this as a rare because of draft, of how strong this effect is in draft, right? Because the tap ability, it takes over the game, but in constructed this is useless. Next card. Lunar Rejection. 2 mana cleave 4. Instant speed, return target wolf or werewolf creature to its owner's hand and draw a card. I mean, there's definitely there's better bounce spells out there. It's another draft card. Move along. Next card. Packsong. 2 mana 1/1 wolf. At the beginning of combat, each turn, if you control... On your turn, actually. If you control another wolf or werewolf, put a +1/+1 counter on itself. When it dies, you gain life equal to its power. Let's look at how many 1-drops we have available that are of wolf and werewolf. Because if this were to gain counter on turn 2, you need a bunch of 1-drops that are playable. But in order to play this on and get a counter on turn 2, you need to play Fearless Pup or Snarling Wolf, which are both unplayable, so this card probably won't see play. If this was a 1-drop, definitely potential, because you can go Packsong Pup on turn 1. You can play Ranger class on turn 2, which generates a wolf token, but just the sheer fact that this is 2 mana makes it unplayable, which definitely sucks. Wizard really doesn't want to give us a good 1-drop. The next card. Toxrill the Corrosive. A 7 mana 7/7. Legendary creature. A slug horror. At the beginning of each end step, put a slime counter on each creature you don't control. Creatures you don't control get -1/-1 for each slime counter on them. You'll eventually be able to kill those creatures. Whenever a creature you don't control with a slime counter on it dies, create a 1/1 black slug creature token. You can pay blue-black to sacrifice a slug and draw a card. I mean, it's a cool card, but I don't think it's playable. Come to think of it, isn't there another creature with the slime counter that came out this last set? Let's see. A sludge monster. Sludge monster puts slime counters and they become a 2/2 and they lose all abilities. So like a blue-black. It even incentivizes you to go blue-black because it's you have to sacrifice Slug and you draw a card. So they definitely thought of this when they made this card. So with Toxrill and Sludge Monster, it is essentially a board wipe. The thing is, this has to be like a blue-black mid-range deck, right? Can that exist though? In standard where it's dominated by the turns deck and the decks that are trying to beat the turns deck, which are hyper aggressive beat down decks or kind of a tech style white decks. I don't think this can exist. But if, right, here's a big if white tax decks drive out all the turns deck because of the addition of Thalia, then there's a potential. The potential is there. The potential is there. This card could be semi-playable. Yeah, it's a really cool card, very flavorful. I like it. I like it. Next card, Ulvenwald Oddity. 4 mana 4/4. Trample haste, and you can transform with the cost of 7. 4 mana haste and trample, pretty good keywords for the cost as well as toughness. Paying 7, it becomes 8/8. Other creatures you control get +1/+1 and have trample and haste. So obviously paying 7 is really costly, but I mean the effect is very powerful. You can also transform this at an instant speed, which is a plus. Good. I'm definitely a good mana dump if there's decks that are willing to play a 4 mana 4/4 with trample haste. I mean, maybe this might be playable in standard to fill in the void of Blessing Beast. But at the same time, it is definitely much weaker than Questing Beast. But comparing this to Questing Beast is kind of unfair because Questing Beast is from Eldraine. What made that card so powerful is that it made blocking hard, but this is just a 4/4 with a haste that can block by 2 creatures, and it might not even trade for a 2-for-1. If they have 2/2 and a 2/3, they can easily block this, which is not a rare sight. You definitely won't see this in Historic, but in Standard it definitely has some potential to be played in a more aggressive aggro shell. Yeah, like a haste tribal kind of deck. But anyways, next card, Undead Steward. 2 mana 1/2 zombie. When it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. When it dies, you may exile it. When you do, return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. Does it always have to exile itself? Yeah, another draft card here. Nothing special. And that's the end of Innistrad Crimson Vow Spoilers Day 4. This time around, nothing really caught my eyes. But definitely some playable cards here. As for the content of this channel, I really want to make a video of another deck soon, but I definitely underestimated the workload of reviewing the spoilers by daily cases. Season just reset, and I'll probably play some more rank games now since I don't have to camp Mythic rank anymore. I did end up finishing at around rank 300 yesterday. I don't know how much of that rank might have fluctuated until reset. Hopefully I still remain in the numbers, but anyways, if you like this video, leave a like and a comment, and if you haven't subscribed, I'd appreciate if you did. I'll see you guys later for another episode of Crimson Vow Spoilers.